Welcome to the season finale of The Cycle, the show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Joining me is Caleb Williams. Caleb, welcome on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Good to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit of World Series rundown. We'll talk the scandal that is currently embroiling the Cleveland Guardians, and we'll make some free agency predictions for hitters and pitchers. Let's get right into it. Our first topic is going to be running back some of the highlights of the World Series, where the Dodgers beat the Blue Jays in 7 games. And the biggest takeaway of this whole series was the dominance of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had a very Madison Bumgarner-esque series, winning multiple games as a starter, coming as a closer, finishing games, prepared to pitch the 19th inning of that marathon game where he had pitched a complete game just a few days before. So, first of all, where does that stand in all-time World Series performances? We've had some great ones. Bob Gibson, like I just mentioned, Madison Bumgarner, and then we've had some great offensive performances. But Caleb, where do you rank it, especially in recent memory?
I've got that 1A and 1B with Bumgarner. I personally haven't put those stat lines side by side, but I was kind of in awe just watching Yamamoto coming off of, I think he threw 96 pitches the day before, close to 100 at least. And just coming out the next day, as a former pitcher, I know that if you throw 96 pitches the next day, you're feeling it. I
Yeah.
know he wasn't feeling 100%. He was running off pure adrenaline. And it was just insanely impressive to me that he could just go out and he was still pumping 95, 96, 97 and was not having any control issues either. Like, he
Yeah, he's a
looked like he
cyborg.
hadn't pitched in 5 days, but
Yeah.
he threw the day before, and that's just insanely incredible. I can't remember if Mad Bum threw back-to-back
He
days. I don't think he
No,
did.
he pitched. I thought it was 1-5-7. And as a Royals fan, I was watching that game, and when the bullpen door swung open and out steps Madison Bumgarner, I said, "Good series, boys." And we got close. We got within 90 feet. But I don't know if Yamamoto was that intimidating. Bumgarner was quite literally unhittable. Um, but it was darn close. It was close enough that you can make the comparison. And the other thing I want to talk about is the performance of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. throughout the series, where this is a guy where you talk about the best players in the American League. You've got Judge, you've got Bobby Witt Jr., and I feel like sometimes Vladdy gets overlooked as a guy who's a perennial MVP candidate. The past few years, he's been one of the best hitters in the American League, if not in all of baseball. And I think he definitely put his stamp on this World Series and laid claim to the fact that he is among the best players in baseball. And overall, I think a lot of the Blue Jays guys, you can talk about Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, who sort of took the next step from a solid player on a good team to a potential star player on a team that could be dominant over the next stretch. So, do we see this Blue Jays team as a one off making it to the World Series? Or do you think they are a threat in the American League for the next 5 to 10 years?
I think you could still see him as a threat just because of what Vladdy showed this year in the regular season, the postseason. Um, but I'm going forward. I'm not afraid, terrified of them in the next 2, 3 years, just because that pitching staff isn't getting any younger. They've got Trey Savage, who's going to be an ace for years to come. But you got Barrios, you got Gosman, who are, I believe, they're above 30, both of them. And that
Max
bullpen's still a
Scherzer's like
little.
54.
Yeah, Max Scherzer is probably not going to be on this team in the next 2 years. But the bullpen's not phenomenal. Bo Bichette could be on the way out. We'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
I think even with all of that going in, they're still going to be a threat next year, probably in 2027 if there is a season. And Vladdy just isn't. He was incredible. David Ortiz is one of the greatest postseason hitters of all time, and Vladdy's OPS this past postseason was better than anything that David Ortiz has ever done. So him alone seems like the kind of guy who can carry a team, not through a regular season per se, but he can
through a
dominate an
playoff
entire
series.
postseason series. Yeah.
And we saw that in parts of the Seattle series where he put the offense on his back at times. And yeah, I was I was in awe because so many people seem to sort of gloss over Guerrero when we're talking about the best players of this generation. And I think he made a statement, and I think people are going to remember that going into next season and for the remainder of his career. Sort of a career defining postseason that I think most baseball fans will remember for a long time to come. But with that, let's move on to our next topic. Little less pleasant to talk about for us baseball fans. Our second topic today is the developing story surrounding Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. Ortiz, who was arrested today in Boston. Clase, who, as of recent reports, is not in custody but has been indicted in a fraud scheme involving rigging pitches in order to enrich some of his friends who were betting. When this investigation started, a lot of us were saying, I know I talked about this on here, it seemed shady. Some of the details didn't seem to add up. Now that we know more, we know that Clase was absolutely in cahoots with some of these bettors. There are text messages between them. One of the bettors was invited by Clase to a game. He was betting on the game in the crowd with details from Emmanuel Clase on specific pitches that he was going to throw at a certain velocity for a strike, for a ball. And of course, you said one of the most damning pieces of evidence, we talked about this off the podcast, was when he threw a ball that was supposed, or a pitch that was supposed to be a ball to Andy Pages. Pages swung, meaning his better lost, what was it, $4,000? Something in that ballpark. And then Clase sent him a GIF later via text, making light of the situation about that swing, losing them a great deal of money. These bettors allegedly made $500,000 betting four-figure bets regularly on these pitches. Clase only made $10,000 to $12,000 from the reports that we've seen. So effectively, if this is all true, traded a potential Hall of Fame career, $100 million probably on his next contract in exchange for a favor to some of his friends and less money than he makes in a typical game. It's all very strange. And I'm curious as this goes forward to see how this came to be. Was this his idea? Was he approached? His friends needed money? It just seems like if he owed someone a favor that bad, he could have just given them the money they needed. Was he coerced? Was this some kind of cartel situation? Is one theory I've seen. But from what you've heard, what's your take on it? How deeply were they involved, do you think? Um, do we see this as being some kind of blackmail setup? We're all confused, but I want to hear your take on it.
I don't know if I dive into the conspiracy theories of if this is a cartel, if this is some kind of blackmail setup. All I know is he's an idiot. You've got he's coming up on he was supposed to come up on free agency either this offseason or next offseason. And the dude was primed for I would guess a 5 6 year deal between 100 and 125 million. The reliever contract's kind of weird, but all you know is this guy left millions and millions of dollars on the table to maybe help out some friends. I don't know. I don't know how you think you can get away with this. You see these compilations that got put out on Twitter of Class A and even Ortiz throwing their first pitches. They're not even close, and it's like these guys have probably had some control problems, but you can't really consider that with how consistent he's throwing the first pitch to the backstop, and it's the first pitch of the inning every single time. It's so clear when you actually look at it that it just blows my mind that he thinks that he was going to get away with it and all of that for his own personal gain of maybe I think it was 10 to 12K that he was going to get just for his buddies to get 400K when that's I don't know,
Just give him the
probably
400K.
probably 1/20th, 1/30th of what he was going to make in free agency. So I
It's
don't understand it. Gambling is starting to ruin even all professional sports. It's insane what it's come to.
And what I will say is it seems like the MLB might have a pretty good handle on it because I was saying, how do you track all this stuff? There's so many different betting platforms to be watching, but they have a fairly advanced AI model that is analyzing all the money coming and going across all legal betting platforms. And they flagged this, and turns out they were right. So at least the bright side of it is it seems like the MLB, more so than other sports, when the legal gambling was sort of going through the legal process, they seem to have been ahead of it, as opposed to other sports where I think they are playing catch up um, on the issue itself. So hats off to the MLB for taking care of it, flagging these bets, and moving along with it pretty darn quickly. I mean, it's half a season from the time that they were flagged to when they were in custody. And I hope this is the last time we have to see anything like this because once is a bad story, twice is a trend, and 3 or 4 of these situations could bring the league down altogether in the eyes of the fans and the reputation of the sport as a whole. But with that, let's move on to free agency, which is the last major topic we have to talk about this baseball season. The first batch of free agents we're going to be covering is the hitters, and quite a few big names on this list. Not a lot of movement from my perspective. We'll get yours as well. The ones I have highlighted, of course, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Gino Suarez, Bo Bichette, Pete Alonso, and Munetaka Murakami. I have the majority of these guys staying with the teams they are currently with, and I'll give a little bit of a reason why. The Cubs put a fairly heavy trade investment into bringing Kyle Tucker in for one season. He's a potential franchise cornerstone. He's comfortable there. Of course, the dark horse, not so dark horse, is the Dodgers, who have a need at corner outfield and willing to spend money. And it wouldn't be as egregious as it seems, as Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Max Muncy are all aging. I have Kyle Schwarber staying with the Phillies. Cody Bellinger absolutely staying with the Yankees. They lose him. Their offense starts to look pretty bleak outside of Jazz Chisholm and Aaron Judge, of course. Alex Bregman, I think, is a candidate to move teams. I think the Mets will absolutely be in on him, but I see your Red Sox holding on. Gino Suarez, not as big of a name, but coming off a massive season. Once again, a team that traded for him that has money to spend, the Seattle Mariners. Bo Bichette, I do not see leaving Toronto. Him and Vladdy came up through the system together. He's happy there. They're coming off a World Series berth. The 2 players I'm most intrigued by, Pete Alonso, who I think would be a great Boston Red Sox, especially with Tristan Casas' injury concerns, or the Yankees moving on from Paul Goldschmidt. The Mets took Juan Soto from him. Could they take Pete Alonso from the Mets? Finally, Munetaka Murakami. A lot of information coming out about him and his struggles with the fastball, his strikeout concerns. In Japan, a country where strikeouts are not as acceptable as they are on our side, and that could be an even bigger concern. His suitors, I have, once again, the Boston Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Seattle Mariners. The only major market I think that will not reach out is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have no room at designated hitter. I don't see them bumping Max Muncy or Freddie Freeman at this time. Maybe if this was a year or two down the road, I think that is a possibility. However, what is your take? If you just want to pick a few of these guys I talked about, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. Give me your take on where some of these guys are going.
My first thing is I think you're wrong, Kyle Tucker. I don't think the whole Cubs experience in the second half was great for both sides. You saw a couple clips of him not running out balls. He was hiding injuries, stuff like that. So I also don't see the Cubs as a team that's going to pony up the 400, 500 million, whatever the projected contract is to go get him. Um, that's just kind of a gut feeling. If I had to guess, I'd say he would go to the Dodgers or Yankees.
Royals need an
Um,
outfielder.
the Royals badly need an outfielder. I don't know if they're going to pay him that, but I think Kyle Tucker's going to leave Chicago. I think they made that trade knowing that he probably wasn't gonna come back or that they weren't going to give him that kind of money. I don't know for sure. Obviously, it's just a prediction, but
They would have
I think he's
extended him.
yeah. Yeah. I don't personally see it happening, but it's free agency. Anything can happen. Bregman, I think he loved it in Boston. I think he enjoyed his time. I think he just wants more long term security. That doesn't guarantee that he's coming back to Boston. I think the Detroit Tigers, I think the Cubs, I think the Mets. Don't sleep on the Cincinnati Reds. I think one of those teams could give him an offer that maybe he can't refuse.
That
At
would
the
be
end of the day, I
impressive.
think he comes back to Boston. And then the super interesting one for me is Murakami, just because I've seen him labeled as the Japanese Babe Ruth, which is crazy because the Japanese Babe Ruth's already on the
It's
Dodgers.
Shohei Ohtani.
But I mean, he set the home run record in Japan. He's not a bad hitter by any means. He does have the strikeout concerns. I am really intrigued by his free agency just to see how much money he's going to get because I've also seen him compared to Joey Gallo, like late career Joey Gallo, where he's striking out a ton and hitting 20 homers. But I think Murakami is one of those kinds of guys that could probably adjust to major league velocity
He
when he
has a
sees it a ton.
big leg kick, and I think that would be very easy to fix. Ohtani fixed that. He had a leg kick in Japan.
And we saw
Big one.
Murakami in the WBC a few years ago. He didn't seem to struggle too badly. He hit the walk-off home run against Mexico or Venezuela, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he'll still be a power threat, maybe not a 50, 60 home run guy, but I could still see him being one of those kinds of guys that hits 240 with 35, 40 homers and at his peak, and that could
And
be
everybody needs
valuable.
that. Everybody
I,
needs that.
I would love it on the Sox, but I personally would
I need an
predict him
official
going to
prediction.
Mariners. I would say
Mariners?
Mariners. Mariners are losing. I believe they're losing both Naylor and Suarez, their corner infielders. So
Yeah.
and the
I have
Mariners
them
need
bringing
bats.
Suarez back.
I could see that too, but even if they do that, they can throw Murakami at first base or
First and
DH,
DH.
and
Yeah.
I think he would fit well there, especially with the past connection between the Mariners and Japanese players.
I had a check mark above the Mets and Seattle on my list. With that, I say we move on to pitchers and wrap this thing up. What do you say?
Let's do it.
And for our very final topic of the 2025 MLB season, we will be talking pitching free agents. And once again, I narrowed down the list a little bit to fit our 5 minutes. To Dylan Cease, Michael King, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Zach Gallen, Edwin Diaz, Robert Suarez, and Devin Williams. This was a lot tougher. I have Dylan Cease to the Mets. They absolutely need a front end starter. I see quite a few Padres pitchers leaving this offseason. Michael King as well. I have him in either Detroit or Baltimore, and a lot of that's going to come down to what they do with Tarek Skubal. If they move Tarek Skubal this offseason, which some people are projecting they will, I don't see them putting money into Michael King. In that case, I have him going to Baltimore. Framber Valdez, a guy I don't see staying in Houston. I have the Blue Jays, the Mets, and the Tampa Bay Rays as a potential landing spot for him. All teams that have a strong offense desperately need a Cy Young caliber front of the rotation starter if you consider Framber Valdez to be that. Ranger Suarez, I see him as a victim of needing a spot in the rotation for Andrew Painter, who has shown his chops at times in the bullpen, but he's ready to make the jump to the rotation full time. I have Ranger Suarez going to the Giants with the Braves as a potential suitor. Zach Gallen, I have to the Cubs, just bolstering that rotation a little bit. Edwin Diaz, the only person I have in this group slated to stay with his team. I don't think there is a universe where the Mets let Edwin Diaz walk this offseason. Robert Suarez was a fun one because at one point, he's the best closer in baseball. And then the San Diego Padres go out and trade for one of the other best closers in baseball. And is it worth it to have your setup man and closer be full-fledged Mariano Rivera Award caliber closers? The Royals did it in 2015, but that's a lot of money to put out to bump a guy to the 7th or 8th inning. I have him going to the Braves. Finally, Devin Williams, a guy who massive letdown for New York this season. However, showed flashes of his former brilliance in the postseason. A team that really needs a closer or at minimum a quality setup man is your reigning AL champion, Toronto Blue Jays. I have Devin Williams going to Toronto. So, of those names, and you have another guy that you are super intrigued by who I'm leaving just for you, go ahead, give us some predictions. Once again, you don't have to touch on everybody, just your key points.
Yeah, my first guy I want to look at is Dylan Cease. He kind of had a weird year where his ERA was a little inflated, but he still had the good strikeout numbers, a decent FIP. I My hot take is I think he's going to the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Orioles still do have a good young core on the offensive side. They did nothing for the pitching this past offseason, and I think they need to build on the pitching, and they could still be potentially a threat in the AL East. Um, Michael King, I'm going to go bias here. I think he's going to the Boston Red Sox. He's a New England guy. He went to BC. I'm guessing maybe he grew up a Red Sox fan, unless he was a loser like Ben Rice and grew up in Boston as a Yankee fan. But I genuinely think if the Red Sox don't make a trade for a guy with a cost control contract, that they're going to go and try and get Michael King. Um, am I? I do not know how to pronounce his first name. The Japanese arm
Tatsuya
coming over,
Imai.
Tatsuya Imai. Yeah, he is the most intriguing free agent pitcher to me, just because these Japanese pitchers that have been coming over have had insane stuff, better than the guys we saw when we were kids, Daisuke and
Hideo
uh,
Nomo.
Hideo Nomo, Iwakuma, was that his name from the
Mhm.
Mariners?
Yeah.
These guys that are coming over now, they just have miles better stuff. I've seen he's gotten some Yu Darvish comparisons just because MI has a 6 pitch mix. He throws everything. He had a 1.92 ERA over there in Japan last year. I like him going somewhere. I mean, I hate to say the
The
Dodgers, but
Giants.
the Dodgers, the Giants. I could see him going to a West Coast team. I could see him go to the Yankees, maybe the Red Sox. I think his market's wide open, like Sasaki's last year.
Mhm.
And then another guy that I don't think you touched on, but Zach Gallen.
Oh, I
Um,
had him Cubs.
I'm with Zach Gallen. I think he's going to take a qualifying offer. I don't know if he's going to do better than 22 million this year with the high 4, low 5 ERA he had last year.
Yeah.
And then my last guy was Framber Valdez. I've got him going to the Cubs
Okay.
because I think they need a ground ball type of guy, a pitch to soft contact kind of guy. And with them potentially losing Shota Imanaga because he's now a free agent too, I could see them going out and spending some money on a guy who's maybe not going to get the $200 million contract, but Valdez is still going to get paid. He's going to go to a contending team potentially. I think the
Yeah.
Cubs are probably the perfect team for him if they're officially losing Shota Imanaga.
Yeah. I had Imanaga. I'm pretty certain he'll stay in Chicago, which is why I went Gallen to the Cubs. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting. And a few of these guys, like how I had Cease to the Mets, you had King to Baltimore, and I had King to Baltimore, you had Cease to Baltimore. I think a lot of it's going to come down to which dominoes fall. If, I don't know, the Braves sign someone early, maybe they take Ranger Suarez. Um, then some of these other teams, Baltimore jumps on Cease. Now, one after another, all these teams that need pitchers start going after whoever's available. And yet it's just one of those things where I think once it starts, it'll happen pretty quick with the pitchers. I think the hitters are going to take a lot longer to come to fruition because so many of them, I think, are staying put. But with that, anything else you want to close out with?
I just want to close out by telling Alex Bregman to stay in Boston, please. I'm begging him. That's all I want.
Cody Bellinger, we have a very, very warm corner outfield spot for you in Kansas City. With that, let's wrap up this season. Caleb, thank you so much for hopping on. We always love seeing you. Until next baseball season, have a good one, everyone. Okay, 31:07. All right, man, that should do it. Let me stop this so we can upload.